What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to another Swift tutorial. Today we're going to be taking a look at how we can add and handle various states in our table views or collection views. So what I mean by that is generally if you want to show data being loaded, you should show a spinner, or in a case where you get an error loading data, you don't want to show the table, you want to show an error image and a label. Same thing for no results and all that jazz. We'll take a look at how to implement that ourselves, as well as how to do it with a framework. So as a little example, here we start off with our loading, and we encounter an error loading, so we get to the error, and then we go back to loading, and we get to our data. So we're gonna go through how to handle these different states. Of course, this is simulated here, and we'll also take a look at how to customize the image and all that stuff. So the error image that you saw show up here after the first loading attempt, this one here, is an error image that we brought in ourselves. So we'll take a look at how to add that and how to show these states. So that said, make sure you smash that like button down below. We need to absolutely destroy it for the YouTube algorithm. Helps out the videos, helps me create more videos for all of you. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Hit that subscribe button as well while you're at that like button down below. Get Xcode ready, get excited, let me stop rambling, and let's get into it. Quick pause before we get into the video. If you haven't seen it already, I am hard at work putting together iOSacademy.io, a community where all of us iOS engineers can come together, learn how to build some of the top apps like Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, in addition to interview prep to land some of these iOS roles at top tech companies. So if you're interested in the free and premium content to come, head on over to iOSacademy.io and enter your email address in the waitlist form, and you will be notified as content becomes available. That said, let's get into the video. Let's begin by creating a new project. We are going to stick with a single view application template, and let's call this project my TableView Placeholder. Save it to our desktop, and let's jump right in. So once Xcode decides to load, what we're first going to do is implement the table view with a placeholder for the various states ourselves, and then we're going to bring in a framework to see how we can expedite it and basically shorthand the whole setup via the framework. So what I'm going to do here is very quickly set up a very basic table view. So if you're not familiar with table views, take a look in my earlier videos on that. Otherwise, you can follow along. So we're not going to use the storyboard. We're going to simply create it in code here. So let's create a table view. Let's add it to the view. Let's set its delegate and its data source and view did load. Let's make sure we conform to UI table view delegate and UI table view data source, like so. And let's bring in the two required functions. So number of rows, if I can spell it correctly, number of rows. Let's return data.count. Let's create a data up here. Let's just say test 1, test 2. And let's add some line breaks here. And we also want to register a cell to this table view. So let's say table view register UI table view cell.self for identifier cell. And we need cell for row at index path. And we're going to say cell equals table view. We're going to dequeue a cell with the ID cell that we added right here. And for index path, we're going to say cell.textLabel.text is that item in the data array at the given position. And finally, let's return cell. And let's also set a frame to this table view to be the entirety of the screen by saying it equals view.bounds. So basically, very simple table view. Let's hit Command R to build in run. We should see our 3 cells here in just a moment. So there we have it. We have our 3 cells. So generally, in a production application, if you think of Facebook or Instagram or something, they use table views, but there's often various states you need to handle. So one state you might need to handle is if you need to refresh data, you might have a loading indicator when you're fetching from the internet. Another state might be the fetch failed, so you have to show an error and maybe a retry button. And the third common state is, well, maybe there's no internet to begin with for the user on the user device, so you can't even fetch. So you might show like a little Wi-Fi image here. So to handle all those cases, generally you need to do it yourself by doing a bunch of if-else's and updating the view accordingly. So let's say we don't have any data in here. So let's just have this equal an empty string array. So we're going to basically use this to simulate no data was returned. So in view.did_load, let's say we come back from fetch, so fetch completed, assuming we're getting this data from like the internet somewhere. We would say if data is empty, we don't really want to show this table view, right? Because there's no data. So we're going to say table view is hidden, would be true, but then we want to show like an image view in the middle of the screen saying no data or no results, and maybe have a label also. So then we would have to do something along the lines of image view equals UI image view, give it a frame, and I'm not going to fill this out actually. Hopefully that illustrates the issue with this entire process. It's very verbose to handle all these different states. And if you also want to give the user more functionality, for example, if the app failed to fetch contents and you show an error image here, maybe you want to have a retry button. When they hit retry, you want to not only get rid of that image view and the error label, but you want to show a loader and you want to update the table view if the results come back successfully. So it's quite a bit of verbosity and cleanup that you, the developer, needs to do on your own part. In other words, it's a pain. So let's see what a pretty nicely encapsulated solution for this looks like. So we're going to bring in a framework called hgPlaceholders, and that actually does all of this stuff for us. So let me open up terminal, and we are going to cd into the project. We're going to be using CocoaPods to bring in the framework as per usual. So do a pod init and give it a second. Let me also stop this application from running. And let's do a open pod file. And you want to bring in hgPlaceholders. I think I copied it beforehand. Yep. So we want this pod. So type or paste that in. Close up text edit. We're also going to, let's delete this piece. And let's close our Xcode window since we're going to want the workspace in a second. And let's run pod install. Give it a few seconds. And what we care about is this guy right here, this green installation line. Now that it's installed, we can open up the project name .xc workspace and get into it. So let me close this panel. Let's expand our window, open this up, and get back to that view controller. So basically what we have obviously still works. What we want to do is change this table. Instead of it being a UI table view, we're going to make it a table view, dropping the UI. And before we do that, let's import the framework that we just brought in. So hgPlaceholder. And we want this to be a table view, I believe is what it is. And this class is defined in this new framework. And all it is under the hood is a basic table view, but it has the additional functionality to show the various state placeholders. So for example, let's put some data back in here. So let's say first, second, third. And let's just say Command R to make sure this is still compiling and running and all that jazz. And this is complaining because we don't need this here. This should be a bracket, and this should be a bracket as well. Let's try that one more time. We should still see our table view on screen as we originally did. So let's see, what are we not doing right? So let me set a background color to this. Make sure we can see it properly. Let's say background color is red. I believe our table is showing, but we're not seeing. Oh, there they are. They're at the cells. Did I miss them the first time? Maybe. But anyways, we've got our very basic table view showing up as before. So for example, now that we have this framework, and let's say we're in a state where we're loading the data, what we can do is simply call TableView, and there's these show functions. So let me close my antivirus pop-up. Basically, we can use these to show various placeholders. So we can show an error one, a loading, no results. We can create a custom one. We can show default. But let's look at loading. And we'll also look at how to customize the image that's going to be shown here. So you'll see this nice little loading indicator here. We've got the image in the middle. We've got loading. We've also got a spinner. Notice that it's still red because we set the background color. But what's cool about this is, let's say we said this array of strings is empty in the beginning, and after a delay, we're gonna put stuff into the array. So we're gonna say async after. Don't worry about this line too much. We're just gonna write a delayed block that appends things to our array up here after 3 seconds. So I'll make it a variable so we can update it. So we'll say append, and we'll say thing, and let's copy and paste this a few times. And at the end of it, of course, what we can do is now we can say self.tableview, and I believe we want to show default. I don't think there's a hide default, is there? Yeah, that's what I thought. So we want to show default, which is the normal table view. And we also want to update the table view's contents because now we have data in this array, so we can call reload data. So if we hit Command R to build and run this, you'll see that we're simulating us fetching data for the first 3 seconds. And after 3 seconds, our screen for the loader went away and we've got our data. So similarly, what we can do, assuming we don't have data, let's look at some other screens that are offered to us. So you saw show default, which shows the normal table. You've seen loading. Let's take a look at no results. So this one, as they all are pretty explanatory, after 3 seconds, we're simulating not getting any data back, and we change to no results. And what I really like about this framework is it allows you to show these states with a single line of code, and you don't need to do the cleanup work around it. And I also like that you can customize these. So before we customize it, let's take a look at show error, which is the last one, excluding the custom one. So in 3 seconds, we'll see here, we get an error. Logo updated, title updated here. So let's look at customizing all this jazz. So the most important customization, I would say, is the image in the middle. So I've grabbed 2 images from Google Images, and basically all you need to do is set 2 image sets, or a particular image set for the different states, and the framework will look for an image in here by default, and if it does not exist, it will use the built-in images. Otherwise, it'll use the ones here. So we're going to add one for loading and the error. So we've got an error image here. Or sorry, we're going to add one from no results and error is what I was going for. So we're going to first create an image set in here called, I believe, hg underscore or hg underscore default dash error. I can never remember if I mixed up the underscore and the dash, but we'll find out in a second. So let me throw this image in here, and let's go back to the view controller, change this to be show error, and let me also change the background color of this to be a blue since our image is red also. Hit Command R to build and run. And we should see that new image that we brought in just a second, like so. So basically, we got an error and it's showing our custom image here. Now, of course, in an actual app, I would make sure the background is transparent or the white would match the entirety of the screen. But hopefully that illustrates the point I want to make. And let's also add one for no results. So we're going to do hg default dash no underscore results. I believe it's plural. So let's drag in this empty box image, go back to the controller, and do a show no results. Hit Command R one more time, and we should see our box here. Give it a few seconds, and we see our box. So something you'll notice is it's obnoxiously big, and the reason is this image itself, if we open it, you'll notice in preview is very, very large. So what the framework will do is it will check the size of the actual image file and try to scale accordingly. So you should downscale your images that you want to bring in. Generally, it's good practice in general, just to keep the size of your app small that the user has to download. So yeah, that's basically what I wanted to go over in this video. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Hopefully you guys see the benefit of using this framework instead of doing it in vanilla Swift without a framework. That said, if you haven't absolutely destroyed that like button already, make sure you do so. The like button really wants to get destroyed for this video in particular, helps out the YouTube algorithm and all the videos in general, helps me make more content for all of you. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe if you found this video useful. I post daily, I try to reply to every comment, so if you've got suggestions, feedback, have a question, have an error, don't hesitate to leave it down below. I'll definitely get back to you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.